people dialing in. So welcome and thank you very much for your time. Again, hi, this is Chad McDaniel with Execs In The Know. We're going to be starting here very shortly, just a minute or two. We've got a number of people dialing in, and welcome and thank you for joining the webinar today. We'll be starting just in a couple of minutes. I'd like to remind all our listeners that during the course of today's webinar, there is absolutely opportunity to ask questions or chat with the chat section of the webinar. So please feel free to be asking your questions, and also you can use the chat function here in today's webinar. Just a reminder that today's webinar is recorded, and the link for the recording will be shared with all of our registered attendees tomorrow, Thursday. So look for that, and feel free to share with members in your team that couldn't join us live today, as we hope that the content and the learning and the sharing is going to be rich with information for you. So again, we'll just start here in about one more minute. Thank you again for joining us, the Future of Enterprise Chat.
Okay, Leslie, are you with me?
Yes, Chad, I'm here.
Oh, all right. Well, Leslie, I'll introduce you here very shortly, and I just really want to say thank you, Leslie, for taking the time to join us today. I'm quite excited about this conversation, and first of all, just welcome to all of our listeners here, as we're going to discuss, I think, a major topic going on within the customer community. And we've labeled it the Future of Enterprise Chat webinar. And for me, I know I wanted to have this conversation as we continue to see more and more organizations embrace self-service strategies, chat offerings, et cetera. And Leslie, I know when you and I started planning for this webinar, you and I had discussed how consumers are increasingly using chat to connect with brands and each other. I even think of myself whenever I'm looking to self-service or service with any of the brands I interact with, the first thing I look for is the chat capability where appropriate. It's my channel of choice for me personally. I know, Les, you and I also discussed how today's consumer continues to demand intelligent, really a higher quality experiences from the chat channel. So when we think of big data, omnichannel technologies, rich media, and how these are delivering huge improvements in chat experiences for both the customer and our agents. So there's going to be a number of terminologies and concepts I think we're going to share today. I'll do my best to ensure that any terminologies that we define them quickly in case any of our listeners are not aware of that, but let's get started. So with that, I'd like to just introduce you quickly to Execs In The Know. If you haven't heard of us, really, Execs In The Know is a think tank. We're advocates for the customer executive. It's really about leaders learning from leaders. And there are many things we're trying to do to enable your voice with brand-to-brand mentorship and best practice sharing. I do encourage you to go to our website, Execs In The Know. We do have some tremendous, at no cost, white papers and reports and studies, which some of them we'll talk about today. But I would definitely encourage you to try to get involved. We've got a great representation, and really looking forward to continuing to serve our audience. What I'd like to do, Leslie Joseph, I'm going to just, before I introduce you, for our audience, Leslie is with 24/7, and if you've not heard of 24/7, really 24/7, if I had to put it in a nutshell, makes customer service and sales simple. I know their platform enables a true, rich omnichannel interaction experience, really connecting customer interactions across enterprise web, mobile chat, social, and phone chat. It's all in real time in the cloud. 24/7 has been a great partner of the Execs In The Know over the years here, being involved as a voice and really trying to help us advance the learning and sharing within the customer community. And I couldn't thank enough of that organization for doing so. Leslie, just a little bit about you, and I know we're going to have you have an opportunity to speak very shortly. But for those that don't know Leslie, he has 14 years of experience in marketing enterprise software products and services, and really as senior director of product marketing. Leslie, I know you lead all the product strategy and go-to-market for 24/7's products and solutions that kind of are focused around the assisted consumer experiences. So let's do this. I want to engage our audience early, and I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll here. And if you could just turn your screen or turn your attention here to that. I'm just going to put this here and launch it. So you should see this on your screen. If you could just take a minute here and give us a vote. I just want to get an idea. I want to get a temperature of our audience here. Do you currently offer chat capability within your organization? Yes, no, considering within the next 12 months. So I'm going to give it about 20 more seconds, and we're going to close her down. So if you haven't voted, just take a quick minute, participate in that. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I've just closed the poll, and now I'm going to share the results. And I'm hoping, Leslie, can you see the results on here?
Yes, I can.
So we have, it's interesting, I don't know, it's good to hear, 73% of our attendees say they currently offer chat capability with their organization, 5% no, and 23% considering the next 12 months. Kudos to everyone in there. As we said, you know, me and probably many other consumers prefer chat as a capability for self-servicing. So appreciate everyone taking the time to participate in that. So after we do this, you know, Leslie, I really want to turn to you and just say, let's start off with this as far as, you know, why is chat getting such strategic attention today? And if you could share some perspectives with us about your thoughts around that.
Sure. Thanks, Chad, for the introduction. And, you know, I think you said it well right off the bat, right? We all have been thinking and talking about the fact that chat is changing, and if it is changing, then it's exactly what you said. It's a response to the way we as consumers are changing. And if you just think about just our own lives and our own example, right? We're over the last few years, we've changed in terms of the way we approach channel. Our preferences for various channels have changed. Our preferences towards the way and the modality of interaction with each other and with companies has changed. Our relationship with our devices has changed, right? And so we've seen over time this groundswell in terms of consumers adopting new channels to connect with each other and with companies. So we have heard this often, that the web is the new front door for consumer interactions, but it's actually possibly also true that in certain cases the mobile phone is the new front door, right? And the fact that can be said about the voice channel is that it's become pretty much the channel of last resort. If you pick up the phone pretty much when everything else has been exhausted. You've tried self-service, you've tried chat, you've tried communities, then you pick up the phone and speak to an agent. And you know, the less that you say about email as a channel, the better. But in the meanwhile, what's been happening is that consumers have really embraced the idea, just the concept of communicating with each other using text. So you can see the chart up here, but just think of it. Based on the recent stats that we heard from Facebook at F8, if you just think about just Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, right, the two biggest messaging platforms on the planet, we're close to about 2 billion active users, 2 billion. And then there are, if you count all of the others, like, you know, Viber and Skype and everybody else, there are about 3.6 billion users who actively and regularly use messaging to communicate with each other. So just, you know, just think of the magnitude, just think of the sheer momentum. That's like 90% of all the internet users out there are messaging users. So just think about the consumer momentum for text-based communication, or as we call it, chat, as a cultural phenomenon, right? I mean, just it's huge. And then if you can go to the next slide. If you think about the same thing in the enterprise, so we've all seen all these different kinds of stats the ones that you're seeing here are from Forrester, which is a pretty credible source from this perspective, is the number of people over time who've since 2009, and they've been tracking this very closely, but the number of people since 2009 to 2014, and even I'm sure the number now is much higher, who've used chat as a channel to communicate with a company has been steadily rising. In fact, one of the things that struck me when I read these reports for the first time was that the growth of chat was the highest compared to all other web engagement channels, which includes FAQs, communities, social, what have you, right? And so hand in hand with this, what's also happened is that the satisfaction with the chat channel has also been steadily increasing. You can see from 27 to 45. But just anecdotally, we know that the fact is that chat has some of the highest CSAT scores across common interaction channels. So if you think about chat, we typically run chat programs even in our own organization, which run at a CSAT of late 80s to early 90s, whereas even good voice programs across the world, typically, the band is about 60% to 75%. If you're running at 80% of CSAT as a voice program, you're doing exceedingly well. And email, again, 50% is the upper limit typically. This is probably not, this is a generalization, but typically, email is always low, voice is in the middle, and chat's on top, right? So if you think about it, right, if you look at chat from an enterprise standpoint, and if you think that the web's your front door, you really want to do one thing. You want to contain people on the web, not only because it's cheaper there, but also because, there's clear evidence that shows that every time your customer has to move from one channel to another, cross-channel, there is a certain amount of dissatisfaction that gets created, so you want to contain them within the channel. And in an ideal world, obviously, all of this containment would be self-service, but the fact is that you need to provide agent assistance often enough, because self-service is not the solution to everything. And in that situation, chat trumps, and primarily because of the immediacy of response and the promise of much higher first contact resolution rates. But even from if you compare it to voice, chat is usually about 40 to 50% cheaper than a voice interaction. And but then while that's true, there's also this little secret that I'm going to tell you, that there's a hidden value to chat that enterprises are starting to slowly realize, and that lies in the data. So we are at a point where, just from a chat perspective, we are able to take text from your regular chat transcripts, and we are able to apply software to it to mine the words and the phrases in these. And that allows us to really to extract insights from customer behavior and customer trends and all of that from the chat. And this is really important, because this is not stuff that you can get from the voice channel, right? Because we are not there from a voice transcription capability, but what you're hearing and what you're seeing on the chat channel is directly the voice of your customer. And there's a huge value, because you can take this unstructured data and you can convert it to structured data and get all sorts of insights that you can funnel back into all customer interactions, not just in chat, but across the web and maybe in other channels as well, that you can mash up with other kinds of data to create insights that can drive your program and your overall customer interactions and make them better. But let's pause for a second. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, Leslie, let's move on. We've got a lot we've got to get covered, and great insights. And you know that we've done some similar research, and I'm going to share a couple of slides here with everybody that I think sort of complements and speaks to the first two data points that you've provided here. And I want to remind our listeners again, tomorrow when you get the link, all these slides will be included, so you'll get that along with the recording, and you'll have these slides that we're going to be presenting here today. One thing I want to do is just to level set with and this comes from our own benchmarking, and Leslie, some of this speaks to what I think you were saying too in different pockets. So first of all, if I had to define these channels, let me give a little background to the report. So twice a year in partnership, Execs In The Know and COPC, we provide 2 benchmark studies. You can find all of these on our website. The fall report, the winter report is taking corporate brands, which this is, and looking at their channel capabilities and where they're at in multi-channel support. There's probably, the couple slides I have give nowhere near the justice. The full report is about 80 pages with some great benchmarking data that you should take a look at. If you'd like a complimentary copy of this report, the full report from listening today, it is a $249 value, so please take advantage of that. You can email me, Chad at execsintheknow.com, and we're more than happy to share that with you. But one slide, Leslie, I want to define channels. So when we're talking in our reports, traditional is telephone, email, that type of scenario. Interactive is what we define as online, online chat, video chat, FAQ, self-help, possibly some forms, IVR, social media being more like Twitter, Facebook, and some other types of forms. And then mobile is more apps, text, SMS, and mobile chat. So on this first chat, no surprise, or this first slide here, there's no surprise that nearly half, and this is from the corporate report where we had over 100 corporate brands participate in this survey. We released this data in February of this year, but nearly half of the corporate participants indicated they're actively trying to shift traffic from one channel to another, with the majority working to shift traffic from traditional care to interactive care. And as these companies also indicated that moving from a live assistance to automated assistance was at the heart of their plans. So giving consumers renewed desire to deal with a live agent, brands need to be careful they are not forcing their customers into a resolution journey that's not the preferred path, or into a channel incapable of providing resolution. Leslie, at the end of the day, what we tell all our corporate brands is because each vertical is different or type of organization is different, is know your customer, and that's a key critical thing, and if you're looking at channel management and integration. Leslie, any comment or anything you want to just say quickly to this slide, or I think it complements to what you're seeing too?
And this is also completely consistent with what we saw in the poll, right? So absolutely, this is exactly where we think consumers are moving and enterprises are moving.
Okay, and I want to bring up just a couple more quick slides. So from the report, the interactive offering. So when this talks about which interactive care solutions does your company currently offer, now while autonomous solutions like online FAQ and self-help tools remain the two most common interactive care solutions, online chat underwent a notable year-over-year increase, growing by 27% amongst companies offering more one interactive care solutions. Video chat solutions have also found a place in the interactive care solution mix we found, and a development that warrants special attention to close monitoring in the months to come. We could maybe at the end of the webinar talk a little bit about video chat, but there are some organizations looking and exploring at that, but I definitely think it's more of a forthcoming channel. But clearly the darker color here being the 2015, you can see kind of the year-over-year growth in each of these channels. I want to go to one last slide from here, and then I'm going to ask the audience a quick poll here. Another data chart as we're talking about the interactive care priorities. What is your company's current top priority for interactive care channel? And again, this was data that we just released in February of 2016. If you want the full report, you can email me. I'll be happy to get you the full report. But my quick comments on this is that more than the priorities of any channel, those of interactive care saw the greatest amount of deviation year over year. So integrate with other channels made the largest gains on a percentage basis, like plus 73%, followed by improved quality performance, plus 30%. But to counter these gains were increase in channel awareness, that was down 45%, and expand capability down 25%. And expand capability, which can be interpreted to mean increasing channel functionality, it continues to be the most widely selected priority, but its edge on improved quality performance has slipped down only to 10% compared to a margin of nearly 50% in 2014. And I know we're covering a lot of ground here, but all of the demographics of these reports and data, we're happy to give you further clarification around. So I want to move back to our audience here, and folks, if you could turn your attention, we're going to move to another quick poll. And I'm going to launch this and give you a chance to vote. So the question is, have you considered offering chat on non-website channels like IVR, Facebook Messenger, mobile apps, etc.? Yes, don't see a need at this time. Trying to figure out how to succeed in traditional channels, let alone the new channels. So if we could just take a couple more seconds here and vote on that, that would be tremendous. And we'll close the poll and show the results. So I still people still voting. Leslie, I'm sure you're going to be interested in this result too.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and let's see what folks had to say. So can you see the results, Leslie?
Yes, this is interesting. I thought that we'd have a little more of the number threes, but we do have a bunch of yeses, so that's very interesting from this audience perspective.
And for anyone that answered yes on the corporate brand side, if you are doing any of this, I'd love to hear from you. We're always looking to highlight best practices and things that organizations are doing in kind of the emerging or new emerging channels. So I'd love to have a conversation and learn more, but appreciate your participation. Again, 56% said yes. 32% said they don't see a need at this time, and 12% are just trying to figure out how to succeed in the traditional channels. And hallelujah, and keep the fight and struggle, because I understand so well. Leslie, let's. I want to continue on here and talk a little bit about the future of chat. And we've talked about how chat as a channel is changing. And give us some thoughts here to this slide.
Sure. So the way we at 24/7 look at it, there are really 4 pillars that prop up the future of chat. And the first is really, you can see the 4 here in this slide, but basically I'll go through all of these. The first is about chat becoming more portable, more pervasive, more omni-channel. So till now, and typically in a typical enterprise scenario, chat has been mostly limited to the website, and not just has it been limited to the website, but it's kind of been its own silo, relatively non-functional in terms of how well it talks to other channels, to voice, to the IVR, etc. Right? And that's all going to change. So we are heading into an era where chat is really going to span other channels. It's going to be part of a consumer journey across channels. It's going to be in the IVR or in social or in messaging or messaging. When I say messaging, I mean what we know today as like Facebook or WhatsApp or Twitter, those kind of spaces. It's really going to be intelligently built into all of these other channels, and it's going to be in such a way that it appears at the right time and in the right format just when the consumer needs it the most. The second relates to data, and we are starting to see very smart ways in which we are using data, big data, and real-time decisioning, real-time prediction. We are going to start seeing this at every stage of the funnel. We're also going to start seeing a role for AI, artificial intelligence-driven machine learning to make chat more effective. In fact, it's interesting that data is actually impacting both directions, right? So we are seeing data applied to chat to make it more effective, but we are also seeing a lot of data and insights that are coming from the chat channel and that are making other consumer interaction channels more effective. The third pillar is really design. It's about the design of the chat experience, so the actual consumer-facing interaction, and that's across whether it's on the mobile phone or on the desktop or maybe some other mode. But these interactions are going to get more visual and more rich, but also informed by data. But then there's also this big focus on the design of the experience for the agent. Typically that's been in the shadow, but that's also coming to the forefront. How do we get the right kind of information to the agent's desktop, to the agent's fingertips when they need it to the most, right? Or how do we design the agent's workflow in a way that takes away all of the clutter and really makes them really effective? This is another big focus area from a design standpoint. And then that kind of leads into the fourth pillar, which is about the digital agent. So companies are really starting to recognize, it's really come across over the last year and a half, where people have come to us and read back our own message to us that, look, chat is a unique skill. It's distinct from voice. So you can't really take a bunch of voice agents and throw them onto chat and assume that they're going to perform as effectively or better, because chat being a unique skill set, agent hiring, training, skill management, performance management, all of these need to be uniquely tuned towards chat. But having said that, there's a big role that technology and data are really going to play. They're going to be infused in this whole, all of these traditional contact center processes at every stage to make the agent more effective. So these are really the ingredients to the future of chat, and this is the way we look at the way things are going.
Okay. Tell us about this particular slide, Leslie.
So, so now these are a few examples, all right? So when I spoke about the first pillar, it was really focused on kind of the portability of chat, and so I have a few examples of how chat's transcending the traditional website, the boundary of the website, and moving into other channels. And the first example that I have, it's in the world of messaging. So what you're seeing on your screen is a few screenshots of a consumer chat that is actually happening natively over Facebook Messenger. So a real quick plug to ourselves here. Earlier, towards the end of last year, Facebook invited us to be one of the 3 companies in the initial trial to trial chat with their Messenger app. So native chat within Facebook Messenger. And I think I don't need to introduce Facebook Messenger to this audience. It's probably something that you guys use on a regular basis. It's the app.
So quickly here, Leslie, and I'm definitely going to speak. Facebook Messenger or Facebook had some real big announcements, and I'll get to that in a little bit along with chatbots. But from this particular screenshot or example, what's the takeaway from here that you'd like to make sure we illustrate to our listeners, the key thing and the capability?
Yeah, so look, the thing is, Facebook Messenger is something that we've integrated with, and it's something that has a huge reach. But today, if you're like a, whatever, a retailer or a travel company, anybody with a consumer website, today what you can do is at key points in the consumer journey, you can have the simple opt-in for your customer to opt in to sign up to receive notifications over Facebook Messenger. So notifications that you get over email, you're used to getting over email, you can get them over Facebook Messenger instead, right? So shipping notifications or product in-stock notifications, those kind of things. But where it gets interesting is when you, as a consumer, you want to chat back, you want to seek support. So you have a further query about your order, or you want to kind of change the delivery location or pick it up in store, those kind of things, right? So you just get onto Facebook Messenger, you open this thread, and you type into the same thread, right, into the same messaging thread, and you chat back with the company. And then the response can come either over a virtual agent or a human agent, but it all stays within the same thread on Facebook. So on the Messenger, on the app, or on the browser. So go to the next slide, please. So the next example that I had was really focused on the IVR. So here's the example is direct deflection from the IVR. So today, when a caller calls the 1-800 number, we can decide whether the caller is better served over a chat rather than over talking to a human agent. And this decision can really be made either based on the caller's predicted intent or the journey in the IVR node. But once the caller is prompted to chat over the IVR and they accept, verbally they accept, okay, it's fine. At that point, we trigger a message with a link, and the message goes to their phone, they tap on the link, and they can start chatting with a human agent at that point. So that's another example of how chat can trigger from the IVR to deflect a voice call. And here it's something of great interest because this is one-to-one attributable deflection, right? And so we've worked with a bunch of clients to pilot IVR deflection to chat, and we're seeing great results. So we're seeing, in some cases, we're actually shifting 8% of the entire phone volume for selected queues over from the IVR to chat, and that's resulted in an overall increase in NPS and first contact resolution because these numbers for chat are significantly higher than those for voice.
And for our listeners here, I see there's a number of questions and comments coming in, and thank you very much for that. I will make sure I try to get to some of those here, but there's some great concepts and examples that are being provided. So would you move to the next slide, chat and virtual agents? Tell us a little bit about this particular example set.
Sure, this is really easy. So, another way in which we're integrating chat into the core self-help, the self-service processes in a website is we're just adding, integrating chat with the virtual agent, right? And so this is really, you can see the various builds, but essentially what we're doing is the consumer starts interacting with a virtual agent, and at the point where there's the virtual agent cannot handle the query or it becomes too complex and requires human assistance, there's a warm handoff. So the human agent comes on, but he can pick up exactly where the virtual agent left off. So that's what this slide is about. If you can move on. I wanted to quickly talk about the mobile, right? The mobile experience. So the smartphone is becoming, like I said, an increasingly important gateway to consumer experience. So it's really difficult to ignore, but at the same time, it's really important to build the right kind of mobile experiences. And we've created some really amazing experiences from a support perspective. So there's this US retailer, and we've used our APIs and our software development kit to embed chat essentially in their iOS, their iPhone app. And it's really cool. At any point in time while you're using the app as a regular user, if you really need help, all you need to do is shake your phone, and that connects you to a chat agent. So we're essentially using native device capabilities to create an engaging and a very fun support experience. And so from a mobile perspective, that's really critical because we need, you want to be able to engage audiences in a different way that is appropriate to the device and the format.
So let me,
these are a few examples that I wanted to show you.
Yeah, and let me get your opinion on this and quickly for our listeners. And there's been a lot of recent news about chatbots and Facebook's recent announcement from their user conference, I think last week. And for clarification, my understanding for myself and our audience is that a chatbot is simply a piece of software that's designed to simulate a conversation with a human user, usually in the interest of giving myself information about what I want or enabling me to complete a transaction. Many chatbots use a different type of, artificial intelligence called natural language processing to respond to commands or requests for information. So with the definition of chatbots, Facebook's big announcement last week was that it's opening Messenger to any company that wants to create a bot and interact with Messenger users. So from my understanding, Facebook is aiming to usher in a new era of customer service by bringing together their 900 million regular monthly users of Messenger with more than 15 million businesses that have an official brand page on Facebook. So basically, Facebook is enabling developers to build these bots for messengers using a send and receive API that will let them kind of identify and send and receive text, images, buttons, bubbles, or whatever calls to action, I guess. And really, you're able to control your own chat experience by blocking messages or entire conversation. So my question to you, Les, is chatbots are gaining a lot of attention these days. What impacts are they going to have on enterprise contact strategy, especially as it relates to chat? Any insight or thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we're really excited about chatbots, but the fact of the matter is that we've already been seeing chatbots, albeit by a different name. We've been calling them virtual agents, right? And what they are essentially, what virtual agents today are is essentially they're a search-based front end to a knowledge base. And so when a customer asks a question in natural language, they're able to use that, parse that, and then based on that, they're able to search the knowledge base and provide a useful response. And usually the accuracy rates are pretty high. We've seen 85, 90% accuracy rates for getting the answer, the right answer the first time around. And so, these are essentially a step in the evolution of what tomorrow will become, what Facebook hopes will become Java-style, chatbots. But the fact is, look, if you really think about it, there are two kinds of questions that customers typically ask, right? So the first is queries that seek information. So, if you're with an airline, you ask something like, what's my baggage allowance? All you need to know is present information to the customer, and that's done, right? Whereas there's a second kind of question, which is typically action-oriented, where the customer wants to perform a task or achieve a certain objective. So I need to rebook my, that's an example of an action-oriented question, right? So VAs today are, and chatbots or whatever you want to call them, are really good at answering the information-oriented queries. So support agents, humans, can really focus on complex questions, action-oriented questions. So or they can alternatively, you can have them focus on more higher value activities like, actually selling, revenue generation. And obviously, as VAs and chatbots get smarter, we will see them starting to take on more and more action-oriented tasks as well. But and that's actually great, because at the end of the day, it leads to an overall cost reduction, a more effective automated contact strategy, and that's great. But what we're also going to see is that the data from the VA and the chatbots are going, and the chat are actually going to feed off of each other. So you'll be able to actually take a comprehensive view and understand leakage points from one to the other and kind of off of the web to different channels like the IVR, and work actively towards plugging them. So all in all, there is no downside to this, to be honest.
Well, let's. I know we need to talk about intelligent data and the whole data component in chat, but let's stay close, Leslie, on this whole developing and emerging trends and issues and things happening that we've been discussing. So I think it's an ongoing conversation. I'm going to ask a quick question from the audience before we move off this chat piece. One of the questions, Leslie, and I have some of my own thoughts here, but do you believe chat CSAT is higher than other channels? Do you have any reaction to that question? Leslie, if you are on mute, you may be on mute. So the question was, why do you believe chat CSAT is higher than other channels?
Oh, sorry, it was on mute. So there are a couple of reasons. I think, again, I outlined the whole idea of acceptance from a consumer perspective earlier on. But if you think about the way chats progress, right, the consumer expectation is a little more lax on the chat channel versus when they're usually calling up the phone. It's usually their channel of last resort, so they've exhausted all other situations and possible ways in which to seek help. But at the same time, the other thing is, if you think about it, chat is more on the consumer's own time, right? So if you're on the website and you ask a question, you're willing to invest the amount of time that it takes to go back and forth, and for the agent to go and find the answer and come back to you, etc. Whereas on the phone, you want answers a little more immediately. So that might be a reason that why chat CSAT is usually higher. That's one of the things. The other thing is also from a chat perspective, it's in the channel, whereas when you talk about calling up on the phone, it's very possible that the customer has actually had to break whatever they are doing in the current channel, which could be the web, and had to pick up the phone and repeat, like basically start from scratch, explain themselves all over again. And so all of the time and effort that they spent trying to self-serve or trying to chat has basically gone wasted because we didn't do a good job of taking that context and transferring it to the person on the phone. But in the case of chat, you're still contained within the channel itself. So it's so people tend to be a lot more forgiving, and that has an impact on the CSAT.
Great question, great perspective. I concur. Let's now talk a little bit about the data. And we spoke about how companies are using more and more data in the chat channel. Take us quickly through this particular slide and the key elements you'd like to point out to the audience here.
Sure. So this speaks a little bit to the evolution of chat. So chat started with static buttons on the website, right? But people soon figured that they needed to create a way they needed to create conditionality so that they could invite visitors who really needed to chat versus just everybody clicking on the chat now button. So they created this idea called business rules. And what business rules are is essentially they're these very coarse, broad if-then statements that you apply to individual pages on the website. So for example, if your customers spent more than 30 seconds on the page idle, pop a chat, right? But where we are at now is we're looking at predictive models, and models are a huge leap over business rules because they essentially look at every single visitor uniquely. So if you look at the, this is a bit of a cluttered slide here, but the idea is that a model is analyzing a customer in real time across his journey on the website and potentially across other channels as well, and not just restricted to the single page that he's on right now. Okay, and so they're evaluating what we call incrementality. That's essentially the differential likelihood of a visitor benefiting from being offered a chat versus if we just left them alone, right? And so this allows for a lot of things. It allows for us to avoid cannibalization of self-service in the case of sales, but it also allows us to personalize the experience, since the models are actually evaluating and predicting the intent of the customer, which a rule cannot do, right? So models are evaluating what the customer is actually trying to achieve by within this journey. What's the customer trying to do? What's he trying to solve? And so they're responding accordingly. And so when we have this fix on what the customer is trying to achieve, we can personalize. We can also machine learn from the intent and from the customer's journey and the resolution, and we can apply this learning across thousands of chats to subsequent chats to make them better, right? And so that's just one perspective, and that's just the top of the funnel. But where, you can go to the next slide, where this really is, if you think about it, the chat funnel, right? So every single stage of the funnel has its own objectives. So it's not just enough to invite or to target the right kind of people. You have an invitation and you pop an invitation, but how do you ensure that you maximize the number of people within your hot lead set who are actually clicking on the invitation and starting the chat, right? So there are things that you can do from a statistical, data analytics, and real-time intervention perspective to maximize acceptance. Or let's say you got your visitors to accept, but now they're chatting. How do you ensure that the agent and that interaction, the chat interaction, you're actually ensuring that, how can you ensure that the agent is saying the right things at the right time to maximize conversion or to drive towards a successful resolution? So there are things there that you can do. And one of the things that I actually wanted to point out on this in this context is what we call design of experiments. If you can go to the next slide. So this goes back to what I said, right? So you've invited the right kind of people. So you've identified who the right people are to invite to chat, and you've popped a chat invitation to them. How do you ensure that they are clicking on the, maximum number of them are actually clicking on the chat now button and starting a chat, right? So what we do is we do something called design of experiments. Chad, you can go to the next slide. So if you take, if you think about the chat invitation graphic that we present to a customer once we've identified them as a hot lead. So if you think about all of the UI elements within that graphic, right? So the font, the placement on the page, the layout, the message, whether or not there's a picture, right? So if you think about all of these as different UI elements and you take them apart and you make these different combinations of them, and you use statistics to figure out which are the 5 or 6 or 8 combinations that are statistically significant. So then you can actually take these statistically significant components, variants, and you can do a bake-off where you essentially, it's kind of like A/B testing, but only in this case there are multiple different variables involved. And so you expose random audiences to them and you try and figure out which one combination of UI elements is driving the maximum acceptance rate, right? And so we've done this across a few clients. We've actually seen, in one case, we saw a 71% increase in acceptance rate for the invite that we chose using design of experiments versus the initial invite that we started the chat program with. So that's kind of the power of these kind of techniques. And this is just one. If you go back to the slide where the funnel slide, there are thousands of different initiatives that we can do where we apply data to the funnel and make the funnel more effective.
Oh, very, very good, and I know there are going to be a lot of questions coming from this particular data discussion, and I see them coming in, and thank you. And we've got a couple more slides, and we'll go down into some of the questions that we're getting asked. I know we wanted to introduce a poll quickly at this moment, and unfortunately I'm not going to be able to launch this through the application, but the poll is going to be, what types of data do you analyze in your chat program today? And this was multiple choice, exported chat reports, agent-level data for staffing, workforce management, chat transcripts, text-minded, or none of the above. Leslie, since I cannot get this poll launched, what would, from your experience working with many organizations, what would you see sort of the answers that would probably come through on this?
Hey, Chad, listen, I'm not able to see the slides advance. It's actually stuck to the funnel slide, so I'm not sure if that's something on my end or on the presentation software end, but it's stuck on the funnel slide.
Oh, okay, I will see if I can advance this here to find out where that go. So right now I have the slide, or I'm showing the slide, and I'll be looking at that. It's enriching chat with interactive content. I'm not sure if you can see that on your screen, but if you could answer a little bit about that particular slide we had.
Okay, so yeah, so I'll just follow on my own copy of the deck. But yeah, so can you just repeat the question, please?
Well, it sounds like when we were talking about enriching chat with interactive content is the slide that I'm trying to figure out how to get it shown on here. But it sounds like data-driven design has an important role to play in chat success. From the slide that we had prepared, enriching chat with interactive content, I know it was more of an example set and a screenshot, but maybe you could share a little bit of comment about there and what you were trying to illustrate, and I'll quickly see if I can get the slide showing.
Okay, absolutely. Design, and so you're right, data is a really important part of it, and it really infuses the entire design process. But then one of the things that we're really excited about, hopefully you can see the slide at some point, guys, is how we are taking design and we're applying it in innovative ways to the process and to the UX of chat. So this thing that we are trying to project is something really compelling, where we are essentially able to take a plain text interaction, which is like typical chat, right? It's just a plain text interchange between you and an agent. But we are trying to take it and we're trying to convert it into something that is a little more visual and more interactive. So what we've done is we've got these things called active cards, which are essentially a part of and built into the chat UI, but they show only when the agent triggers, so they're controlled completely by the agent. And the agent can push to the customer very targeted pieces of content that reside in these cards that the customer can view or interact with. And so you know, these could be anything. These could be maps, videos. The two examples that we have on the slide, and I really hope you can see them. The one on the left-hand side is an example that we've done for a hotel company, where essentially an agent, when he's on chat, this is a sales chat scenario, he can actually show visuals of the hotel that he's proposing to the customer. They can show details of the hotel. They can show the actual pictures of the actual rooms, or the common areas, the spa. They can show. They can kind of take confirmation from the customer over the active card rather than having to type everything out. So all of this is one example. The example on the right is a little more functional. So this is a credit card company where, in order for the agent, and before the agent can access a customer's account to read information or make changes, they actually need to validate the customer's identity to prove that to make sure the customer is indeed who they claim to be, right? So in that case, what they would typically do in the old world was ask them authentication questions, and the customer would type these out in the chat window, and the agent would be able to see them. In the new world with cards, what we are able to do is the agent just pushes the customer a card, and the card has fields where the customer enters whatever authentication information they're supposed to, and when they click on submit, the data that they entered, it doesn't go to the agent. It goes directly to the CRM system in the backend, which we've integrated with. It authenticates there, and then the CRM system sends the agent a token that tells the agent whether or not it is okay to continue with the interaction. So these are just kind of
Yeah, I was going to say, Leslie, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show the screen. Something is frozen to the platform. But when we get these slides out to everybody, you'll see these examples to what you're talking about, what you have been speaking about, and we can get some questions answered from there. I want to move into the last slide, and then we're going to go into some questions, Leslie, and this was organizing for success. And kind of from your thoughts, the key takeaways, the key things for individuals to take for success here. How would you outline those?
Sure. So one of the questions that we often get at this point, I'm sure you guys also have are probably thinking about this, is this seems daunting, right? All of this technology, all of this data, but the fact is that it's really not about the technology at all. It's tech is not a limiting factor. We typically work with enterprises at different stages, right? So we work with really large, mature enterprises who are all ready for omnichannel. We've worked with people who are just starting up with a chat operation, really don't know where to begin. What we always say to enterprises is, look, adopt this crawl, walk, run approach based on wherever your starting point is. So, for example, even if you're just starting off, even just an analysis of your current journeys with, if you have nothing else, you're just your web analytics data, that itself is a good way to understand which customer journeys are kind of breaking and where they are breaking, and maybe even some clues into why they are breaking, right? So that gives you a good sense of where to begin. What matters really is whether or not you have really clear goals, whether you have a good strategy and a roadmap to go forward with your chat channel or whatever channel you're trying to approach. And in a lot of cases, surprisingly enough, it's the importance of good executive sponsorship cannot be belittled. It's really critical to have good commitment across the board if you want to make chat work. So we really think about it in terms of a few thumb rules, and those are on the slide. The first one is you got to think about this combination of the platform, the chat platform, the data and the analytics, the design and the operations. It's very easy to fall into the trap of saying, hey, I'll just get the best of breed for each and then just throw them together in a pile and hope that everything will just magically work. But that really doesn't work very often. The fact is that it's part of a well-oiled machine, so you really need to ensure that all of these things are working in sync with each other and that they're talking to each other and the data is flowing, the insights are flowing, and that loop is fed. So that's one. The second part is really focused on consumer journeys and omnichannel strategy. So you really have to think about and use your data to look at customer journeys across channels and really get very prescriptive about the best ways to leverage chat across your sales and support channels. So at 24/7, we've got this thing that we typically do with customers. We early in the game, we do these chat assessment workshops where we essentially take your Omniture data or your Google Analytics data from you, and we analyze this, and we actually help you to look at them with fresh eyes and identify what's going on with consumers, where the breakpoints are, and based on that, we help you build the initial business case for chat or virtual agent, or a combination of chat and virtual agent, and how we can help you solve for a better channel mix. So we help you with that, and we can really talk to you about how we can take your data and come up with insights from that. But it's really important to think about it from that perspective, from an omni-channel perspective, and kind of tie chat into the overall contact strategy of whatever it is that you're trying to do overall with your customer interactions. The third is really a piece of advice. It's a lot of people go for this big bang approach, which doesn't typically work, or where they do it for a few months and then they realize that it's not working out as great as they thought that it would, and so they shut down the channel. Our advice is always start small, start slow, take a small proportion of your web traffic, or if you already have a chat program and you want to augment it with some of the ideas that we've talked about in this webinar, then just divert 5% or 10% of your chat volume to some new initiative. Maybe it could be active cards, or it could be chat mining insights, but really just focus on a small component, test it out, see if it works, and then and of course be very clear about the metrics that you're trying to hit and monitor them closely. And if you really think that it's working well in a small controlled environment, then scale it. So that's another piece of advice that we often give to clients. And lastly, don't ignore the impact of design. This is critical. Especially because this is one of the most underserved and overlooked kind of parts of the interaction design, the overall design of the program. People really just don't focus on the actual, rubber meets the road experience for the agent and for the customer. So we always say, think twice and then think once again about how that experience is going to play out on the website and in the contact center.
Very good insights, and I want to go to a couple of quick comments that are being shared by our audience members along with some quick questions. And what I'd like to ask our audience is that at some point, feel free to email me, chat@execsintheknow.com. Where do you want continued conversation around the whole chat emerging channel? Where do you still want some insights and kind of still questions on your mind? And we'll look to see what we can organize and put together to assist you in those continued thrusts. One of our listeners just want to throw a comment out there. I think it was Connie. She said that her team has both channels and MTS and CSAT and are consistently higher in the chat channel. So, Connie, I'd love to hear more about that or any examples of success, but it looks like you're seeing consistent improvements with both, I guess, how you're looking at MPS and CSAT, and you're talking about the chat channel, so do share more. I'm going to ask you another question that came in quickly, Leslie. The future role of email, will chat kill email as a channel? Any quick insights on that?
Sure. We've spent a lot of time pondering about that, especially because messaging is becoming, and when I say messaging, the example that I gave you about Facebook Messenger, today it's Facebook, tomorrow it could be Skype or WhatsApp or wherever else, right? And so email as a channel, it's not ideal for today's world, but it's also been generally badly managed in many organizations, and consumers have kind of lost patience with email as a channel, broadly speaking, right? And so there are a lot of our customers, they come to us directly, their first objective is, hey, I want to kill the email channel, or I want to move away from email increasingly. I want to spend I want to get more and more of my contacts onto chat so that email becomes less relevant to customers. A few have even taken off the email support link from their contact us pages. And it's really interesting that there is a huge value in moving contacts from chat, from email to chat, primarily because first contact resolution is higher, CSAT is higher, immediacy of response is better, and the chat agents are able to be more responsive to kind of the customers back and forth what they actually need. But while all of that is happening, we're also seeing messaging, which is on a resurgence, and it's we're watching how that pans out, because essentially messaging is kind of asynchronous, so it's not email, but it's kind of the same thing where instead of chat where you almost instantly get the response, you may have to wait 20 minutes or 15 minutes to get a response. And what we're tending to see is that as of right now, wherever we've seen messaging come into play, customers are generally okay with it as long as it's not crazy, because look, they're also the expectation from a consumer is that, look, they always have the device in their pocket, right? So whenever the agent or the company is able to get back to them within a reasonable margin, it comes directly to them and it alerts them, and they're up there. So we're still on the fence about how that will work out, but definitely email is something that our customers, like mainstream email, is something that our customers are actively looking to reduce their dependence on.
And we have someone that just commented and say that email is their preferred channel, just because it's a passive channel, and so many companies, maybe to what you said, maybe some companies are handling it so poorly, we can't dismiss it or ignore it. And this individual was saying they prefer email because they can fully describe the issue, and their participation is not required to resolve it. For them, it's the most efficient channel. So everyone's going to have choice. The challenge for our brand partners is knowing the customers, knowing the channels that best serve the needs of their customers, and how to seamlessly integrate the customer experience across all those channels. I want to thank everyone for your time today. And Leslie, I know there's a number of questions that came in, and I will send them to you, and possibly what we could do is get them answered via email and get them back out to the audience members. It's been great visiting with everyone today. Tomorrow you'll receive a link from today's webinar. I do encourage you to check out 24/7 Inc. They have got tremendous things they're doing within their client case studies, and I'm happy to connect you with them if you'd like their contact information. So Leslie, any final comment, any word of encouragement, anything you'd like to just leave as a lasting impression to our audience before we close?
Sure. Thanks, guys, for spending the time. I think this was I enjoyed presenting, and I hope there was something good, a few good ideas from this webinar. But I think, you know, chat is definitely here to stay. So you know, consider it as an active part of your channel strategy, but also think about how chat is maturing and channels are changing, and keep an eye on what's going on with chat, because it's like a, you know, it's core to where consumers are headed, and it's a very critical part of your contact strategy going forward. So, you know, think about it in the context of everything that you've heard from us. Thanks.
Well, on that, Leslie, on behalf of Execs In The Know, thank you so much for your time, your insights. We look forward to all of your feedback from our attendees, and more information, I'm sure, coming forward about this ongoing need and conversation. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Thank you very much. This will now end the webinar.